Hello and welcome to our first ever live stream. We'll see how this goes. Joined by the famous Bronco Barry, who's been on the show before. We normally record it and then upload it, but we thought stuff it. It's still a live one.
Groundbreaking stuff now. Going to new levels. The Fantasy Front Office podcast, taking it up to the next level.
Yeah. As we said before, Bronco Barry is a member of the Muff Punt Partnership. So we have race horses in training with Grant Dewar, which we name after NFL players. We've been playing fantasy for about 8 years now, something like that. Tell you what, Barry, I'll just click that chat there just in case someone chats and we can see it. There we go.
I'll leave you in charge of the technology.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen and whatever else. So Blandy's away in Florida this week, so Baz is thankfully stepped in.
Well, stepping in, I'm here in person. You know, the Statman Bland is not to be repeated. I don't think he's a one and only fantasy front office Statman. So I'm not going to try and fill boots, you know, but.
You just be yourself, Barry.
He's having a good time in Florida, though, isn't he? I've heard.
Yeah, he's loving all the rides, isn't he? The only thing is, because he's so small, he doesn't get on all the rides. I don't know if I've pinched one of your jokes there, like.
No, surely not. I mean, I was just concerned that if he ends up at Disney, if he goes to see Snow White, he might not get out. They might sort of rope him into the show.
I tell you what, I just open my phone and make sure this is streaming okay on YouTube before we carry on.
We have to save our best material for later on, do we?
No, I just want to make sure it's working. Your channel. Yeah, it says we're live. Your channel. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're live. So it's all working. Have you got a beer?
Beer.
Is that one of the? Is that cheers, mate? Is that one of the draft ones? Is it?
It's not my little mini draft keg that I've got. My little beer pump. Yeah, last one at the barrel. Unfortunately, got a few out of it on Sunday with some good NFL games, wasn't it? It was a good week to watch. Weekend just gone, so I thoroughly enjoyed that with half a dozen.
Monday morning's getting so hard now. Like it's just
it's tiring, isn't it?
I think as the years go on as well, and then it's just like. Wake up Monday mornings, I'm like, Jesus.
Especially if the 9 o'clock game goes late and it gets past midnight, you think, oh God, it's starting to my sleep's getting cut down.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But you mentioned that obviously you're not going to try and replicate Blandy, and neither am I. Definitely not, because some of the stats he comes out with are just ridiculous.
No, I mean, have you got any stats? Have you got any stats for tonight?
Oh, yeah, I've got fucking loads of stats, yeah. One of the reasons I've started presenting the PFF and the sleeper is because the stats are in there, and then I kind of understand what Blandy's rabbiting on about.
DVOA, yards after catch, yards, anything else.
Yeah, but what we lack in stats we'll make up in banter, I think.
I hope it's a short show.
Well, the longer the show goes on, the more pissed we'll get, so it'll be fine, won't it?
Absolutely.
So, right, let me make sure I'm presenting the right stuff here. First thing I wanted to touch on, Baz. So, for anyone who doesn't know, we've got our own fantasy front office fantasy league. So, we've got a mixture between our mates and people who we don't know, who've just watched the podcast that drafted teams, and every week we look over that league.
We did a nice live draft, didn't we? Or you did a draft that was just slightly delayed, and people could join in, and it worked well, I think. And then I would keep the interest going through the season. And the tables, I had a look at the table just before it came on. It's starting to sort of shape up a little bit, isn't it? You know, somehow the front office have got themselves at the top. They must have had first pick and then the best pick on all the waivers, but you're at the top of the league.
I think that's because like the people we selected for the league were inexperienced. You know what I mean? So we had like an unfair.
You guys are top at 5-1. There's a couple of us at 4-2. Me and AJ, and then there's a host of people at 3 and 3. So it does look like a wide open league. Plenty still to play for, isn't there?
Yeah. So this is currently on week 6. So obviously last weekend, and I was going down it just as a little bit of prep to see how people had done and whatever else. So AJ's hit a bit of a run, and then so I seen AJ score for 126, and then went to the right and noticed that you scored 56.4.
Yeah, I mean, I did put on the group. I didn't plan very well. I got stung with the bye week. So the the Titans and the Raiders both been on bye.
Yeah,
got loaded up on Raiders with a nice Derek Carr, Devontae stack, and then we've got the kicker. So I was missing a few specialist positions, and I'd have to cut some. It's a short bench you've put on with no IR, so I'd have to cut about 4 players to make a team. So I thought, play the long game, keep your best players. Concede this week, which was I probably wasn't going to beat 126 anyway, so it's worked out well. I'll see you in the
playoffs. So you're blaming me there with no IR, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed you've got Hopkins there. We'll get onto him later.
Oh, we will. I've been waiting for week 7 for a while.
Yeah, and like every week, we give the clap to the highest score, and I was sure I'll be clapping myself. With 142, I thought you get him. We must have the highest score, and then I would scroll down, and TY's got 144.9. So TY gets the clap of the week. I don't know if you can hear that, Baz, at your end.
I can hear it loud and clear.
Yeah, well done, TY. He was asking when he was going to get a clap. He got one.
Well, he has to put the scores up, doesn't he? But yeah, 144.9. Who was his main man? Do we know? Joe Burrow.
Burrow, yeah.
Probably got 32.9.
He's got Tyreek and Waddle, yeah.
Tyreek, steady week. 12 catches and 15 reception throws. 30 points.
Yeah. Even his bench, he's got Kazicki on his bench. He likes the Dolphins, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's going to have it. Dolphins bye week then. That'll be a tricky one for him to negotiate.
Yeah. Do the same as you, won't he? Just sack it off for the week.
Bit of a comeback, Kazicki, though, because he'd been on the list of players who have just been slipping out of the rankings and not getting the targets. But he seems to have had a bit of comeback last week.
Yeah, Blandy had called him undraftable at the start of the season. The undraftable. 25
points this week for the undraftable.
Yeah, he's not always right.
You can't get them all right, can you? And it probably is just a one-off week, isn't it?
Possibly, yeah.
Did you see the stat about the fantasy scoring in general? Fantasy scoring in general, 22% down on previous year.
Yeah, I seen it the other day. Everyone was moaning on about it, saying that they obviously the defenses have kind of taken over. Whether it's the defenses that have like cottoned on how to play against certain players, or
it's a large drop off, isn't it? I mean, it's probably a little bit of coincidence, a bit of time, and it might come back around the second half of the season once the offensive coordinators work out how to sort of scheme up against some defenses and what have you. So I wouldn't expect it to stay like that all through the season, but that has been a bit of a slow start. But from a fantasy perspective, it makes for tighter games, low scoring. If you have got marquee players that are flying, one of the top 3 running backs or top 3 receivers, you're going to be flying towards the top of your leagues, aren't you?
Yeah, I think as fantasy players, you kind of obviously, well, you do, unless you're in a league with, I can't remember the call them leagues, but when you can pick a defensive player for your team.
Yeah.
Unless you're in them sort of leagues, you're going to focus on the attacking players, and unless you really get into the game like a Blandy, or you're a Niners fan, and that if you're a Niners fan, you're probably going to know the defense as well, but you're not likely going to know especially in the UK, like other teams' defenses. I think that as fantasy players, we just, especially probably our level, is you just focus on the attacking players. It's when you start getting a bit deeper into it, you then start looking at matchups and the defense and who's your wide receiver going to go up against in the cornerback. And
I think again, it just puts those first couple of round picks. If you get the right studs and they hit, you're flying. If you're going to put the busts in your first 2 rounds, you're going to be snookered because you can't make it up with your wide receiver 3 on 4. So
no,
the drafting of those early players is critical, isn't it, when it's low scoring?
Yeah, I think what I found this year is like that them wide receiver 3s or wide receiver 4s is like when the wide receiver 1 of that team gets injured, and these players then start going up against elite level cornerbacks. They're like, you think they're going to have a good week because they're going to get more targets, and they don't, because they're just getting outplayed by the corner. Yeah, they're just getting shut down.
There's some top corners, isn't there, these days, who can just shut down the best players, never mind the weak ones. So yeah, some players suit being a second or third option, easier matchups, pull off a couple of big plays. I think when I first started drafting in some of these fantasy leagues, it was just about picking the players that you like, picking the Tyreek Hills who can go absolutely berserk, and get 1 or 2 of them in your team and you're flying.
Yeah. You knew you were gonna score big every week, didn't you? You didn't really need put that much effort in, did you? Really, I don't think. I don't think we sit back years ago. I don't think we were so active on waivers and transfers and stuff like that.
Probably backup running backs when they came RB1s were still easy waiver pickups about an hour before the kickoff, weren't they? Because we weren't really following. So, more attention, more competition, better results.
And that's why it's important for just casual players to just watch podcasts like this, not just this one or ones you're enjoying, just pick up little pointers here and there, especially when you get like little tips and tricks from players who've been playing for years. Then if you can get someone like Blandy giving you all the stats, it might go over your head, but sometimes these stats
take 1 or 2 things out of it. 1 or 2 players that you pick up here and there can make a difference. If you get a good waiver player and he turns out to be a staple of your team for the season, that could be all difference between playoffs and missing it. And just a podcast here and there, just stick it on the background while you're doing something and pick a player up.
Week 7, I haven't looked at the fixtures for week 7 for the league. It looks like we've got a pretty tight match.
Yeah, I looked at my own match and I seen I was playing Callum, who's a bit of a fantasy shark, isn't he? He always seems to be up there, and he had a few players on bye, and I thought, oh yes, I've got a great chance, and I think he's done a good bit of business in the waiver, because there was about 10 waivers went through on this league, wasn't there? There was a big and some good pickups and some.
So he must have picked Gene up, did he?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he got somebody else. Kenyon Drake went, didn't he? Trevor Lawrence, Patriots defense. Tonyan he picked up. Yeah, I think he picked up a kicker, a tight end. So he's, there's plenty of people that must be listening and must be active. And there's been loads of roster changes over this last week, which is good.
I've noticed you've got Etienne there, yeah.
To be honest, I haven't got much choice. I think I went wide receiver heavy, and I've got Mitchell from the 49ers who's on IR and hopefully coming back, November time, December time. So I've had to keep all of them thinking, and I've not got a lot of choice. I've done relatively well, I think, in picking up Latavius Murray, because I think he's going to end up, being the number 1 back for the Broncos. And I know Blandy's probably been on about it in previous shows.
Yeah.
They were putting the hopes on Williams, who's gone down with an ACL. They didn't really want Gordon. They were close to cutting him until he got, bumped up the pecking order. And they pretty much bombed him out halfway through the game last week. Obviously, Broncos didn't play very well. It wasn't to a game, but they just used Murray and Boone and just had Gordon on the bench. So I think he's going to go Gordon at some point, or just just be a total backup. And Latavius Murray could be the lead. If you've got a chance to pick him up in leagues or put your waiver in for him, go for it. I think, and even if you don't want to start him now, see how he does the next week or two. He could be that RB1.
Yeah. Back on Etienne, I think he's starting going up in that upward trajectory. I think he's one I've had my eye on. See if I could possibly get him off someone.
He's had I think he's probably a transfer target from people because he's on that upward curve. I think James Robinson's a good back. And runs hard and put some good points up, some touchdowns last season and the start of this season. But I think they like Etienne. He's a former first-round pick, isn't he? He played with Lawrence at Clemson, so hopefully he's got that chemistry there. And I think he did have a good game, didn't he? From what I saw on the highlights, he had a 100-yard game 86 yards, something you're saying there?
Yeah, 108 yards.
108 yards. So, yeah. I think he's starting to find his feet now. And, hope for me and hopefully the owners that he start leaning on it more and he gets more touches.
Yeah. So, Barry, if you look on your Melon screen, you might see on the right-hand side, it says chat.
We've got a couple of questions, have we?
Yeah, Mr. Hope.
Have we covered the 49ers game yet? You said always do the 49ers last because they're boring and just run it. I mean, that's not my comment. It's not going to get the 49ers fan group going, is it?
And
I've got my T-shirt, but it's a bit too chilly for a T-shirt in this weather, especially when you can't afford to put the heating on. So no Broncos T-shirt this week. No.
Whilst we've got Mr. Hope, let's see how Mr. Hope's team's doing. He's not bad. Was that mid-table? Mid-table.
Anyone 3-3 is right in the mix, aren't
they? Yeah. Oh, he's got Swift coming back.
Yeah.
Rondale Moore, Tucker. Oh, we know he'd have the 49ers D.
49ers D. He's got that on lock, hasn't he?
Have you? Kev Hamilton, J.K. Dobbins and Lazard for Waddle and Pitts. Should I do it, lads?
Oh, it's a tough call, that one.
Yeah, tough call. Definitely not.
I'll have Waddle and Pitts, eh?
Wasn't it you who started that? All that you were like, when you throw a stone in a pond and the ripples go. Well, you were the one who.
There could be a domino effect to trades. I think
you were the one who threw the stone, weren't you? So for anyone who doesn't know, this J.K. Dobbins and Lazard for Waddle and Pitch is was kind of like a trade gate in one of our leagues, and there was a bit of controversy. There was a bit of on, and Barry started it. Or what was the trade that you started it all off, Barry?
Yeah, so this might be a bit of a segue into our first game. It was really on Dobbins, So I drafted Dobbins and thought, ACL week 1 of last year, he'll be flying at the start of the season. Then he had a little bit of a sort of Twitter spat with someone, didn't he? Say, I'm fit, and they were saying he's not. And I just thought, something doesn't feel right with him. I need to offload him. So I thought, right, who can I get? So I seen D-Hop was, I think it's about week 3 or 4. D-Hop's coming back, week 7, 6-game ban. Can we do Dobbins for D-Hop? Hammond, he drives a hard bargain, so I had to throw in a little sweetener. So I put Lazard in there because I thought, Lazard, he's had a couple of early touchdowns. He's one of these players where he seems to score quite well, but he doesn't get a lot of volume. So he's one of them you don't want to trust, and maybe he had a better options. I can't remember. So I thought, we'll have Dobbins and Lazard for Hopkins, and we did the deal, went through. I like my end of the deal, but I think it was really fair. And I think Hammer thought, right, now where can I move these two onto? And he, sometimes you find people who are easy to trade with, they give you a good deal, whether you're giving them something back in return, I don't know, but he managed to negotiate a good deal for Waddle and Pitts. Pitts was...
Yeah, but don't forget, Hammer was approached with the trade. He didn't approach the
allegedly,
trade. Allegedly, yeah. Hashtag ask Anth. It was a good little. It was almost like we planned it there into the Thursday night game. Obviously, since you traded for Hopkins, was it like week 1 or week 2 you got him in?
No, I think it was week 3 or 4. I think it was probably a couple of weeks, and I think it took another week for him to move him on. But obviously, Hopkins or Dobbins weren't doing anything because they were both injured or suspended.
Yeah.
That first game we're going to cover is the Browns at.
No, we're going to go. I don't know if you can see my screen, Baz. So you should be able to see Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just do the.
The Saints Cardinals first. Yeah.
We'll do the Saints Cardinals because it's tonight, and if anyone wants to rejig the teams from our expert advice and opinions,
well, I wouldn't recommend that, but yeah,
they've got a bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at this game in sort of preview. It could be a good tight game. This couldn't it? I think some of the Thursday night games so far have been quite poor, but they've always involved one poor team. I think this is two teams who are relatively even matched. They're not Super Bowl teams, but both want to be playoff teams and both had winning seasons in the past. So I think this is a tight game to call. And then when I looked at some of the players in it, there's all sorts of question marks and who you pick, who's going to play. So yeah, I think anyone you want to start off with?
Well, normally look at the first things first. Obviously, the Cardinals are favourite. Blandy always likes to talk about betting. So as soon as he sees who's favourite, who's not favourite, he goes, I might have a little cheeky bet on them. But
yeah, it's 2.5 points, isn't it, the handicap, I think, on this game, which is not a lot. Less than a field goal is pretty much close to a pick which side you fancy to win. Teams don't generally win by 2 points. It's not easy, So, I think just the Cardinals are a funny team, aren't they? They just seem all over the place, Last year, they were one of the last teams to have to lose. I think they had a really strong start. They were 11-2 at the start of December, and then since then they've won 3 games. They've lost 9. It just seems a real tail off last season. It's just come into this season, and it's just odd.
In terms of fantasy players, obviously Hollywood Brown went down, missed a game injured, and I think there was rumours that he was going to miss the season.
I think that is the case, isn't it?
I thought he was going to miss the season, and when I started looking for today's pod, it says from yesterday. It says that he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, well that's a good result for them, isn't it? But
what's that back in time for the playoffs kind of thing? Then
the timing of Hollywood going down coincide with a couple of other moves on the roster, which makes the stat analysis quite difficult, isn't it? Because obviously you say D-Hop's back, so one down, one, and they've also traded for Robbie Anderson, haven't they?
Right, yes, I forgot about that. Was something in my back of my head.
So Robbie Anderson's those classic sort of deep threat. Hollywood's that deep threat. So that should be, again, I don't know if I wouldn't pick him for tonight. He's only just joined them in a couple of days. They might get him on the field and just get him to, just run a post route straight down and stretch the defense out. But ultimately, we will be replacing that Hollywood with that deep threat. And hopefully that leaves loads of space for D-Hop. Who hopefully can, hog the targets, 10 to 15 targets a week. He doesn't drop much, give him the ball. He's a superb receiver, isn't he? And he's always been a big red zone guy. So
the only thing I worried about with D-Hop when I was looking at it was like, even though have you seen his promotional video about his return?
Yeah, he's got a bit of he's not happy about his suspension, was he? Nobody likes to be suspended, but I think it was a drugs-related one, and I think he was trying to claim innocence, as they all do. But as in, he didn't realise what he'd taken, or didn't get enough A test and a B test or whatever else. So I think he's going to come back with a bit of an extra grind.
Yeah, the only thing I was worried about, I'm not worried about him because I don't have him any of my team, so I'm not a Hopkins owner. But as you as a Hopkins owner, don't you worry? Certainly for tonight. I mean, are you starting him? Are you worried they might just ease him back in? Obviously, he's fit. He's a machine, isn't he? But
and he's
going to be shot straight in.
His suspension was for drugs related, so he's still been training, so he should be fit. And with Hollywood going down, who else are they going to throw it to? So when I would look at the list of targets, you're going to have Hollywood was the number 1 and Zach Ertz number 2. It's going to probably be D-Hop as number 1 and Zach Ertz number 2.
Yeah,
I think we've got a little question in the chat there, Anth, as well about some of the backup players. So again, Rondale Moore, I think, had been doing quite well. He's been sort of getting that 50 yards a game. I think that's what I've wrote here. 13 and 11 points fantasy. So again, for the last couple of weeks, so for a wide receiver 3-4, that's all right for me. Getting 13 points, and if you can nab a touchdown there, you could be absolutely flying. So. The thing
is, our thing about Rondale, so like you say there, is like 99% of the snaps last week. And I think last week, Rondale was getting a bit more of attention from the better cornerbacks. So if D-Hop's there tonight, does Rondale get a better game script?
Yeah, I think if you actually look at this matchup itself, the Saints are one of these teams where they do have a good defense, but I think Marshawn Lattimore is an absolute shutdown corner, isn't playing, so he would have been on D-Hop anyway. So they're probably having to go their second choice on D-Hop, and it'd be the third or fourth choice corner or defensive player. Obviously plays out the slot a lot more than Moore. So I think Moore's a good player for tonight. Whereas I think Dortch is not too. No. I think he was more of a punt returner, wasn't he, last week? And I think
Dortch was like a hot waiver wire pickup a couple of weeks ago, and then he kind of had he had a bad game last week, 36% of the snaps. Well, actually not last week, the week before, and then he dropped off totally. So Dortch's a no-go for me. I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole.
I think Bradley was asked there, which one do we want, Moore or Dortch? For me, it's definitely Rondale Moore. And
definitely Rondale Moore for me. Yeah,
I think he'll get plenty of snaps. He'll get plenty of targets. Play out the slot. Yeah, I think he's got a option of a chance of a good game tonight.
Yeah, I think for Rondale as well. Isn't somebody he's been out wide, isn't he? So he's back in the slot possibly tonight if AJ Green's playing. Yeah,
I mean AJ Green's just a bit of a corpse now, as Blandy would say. That's one of his phrases that he's done, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's got a he's a big body. He's got a good reach and that, but I don't think he's there anymore. His legs have gone over, so
Yeah. Bradley's asking again there, would you start Moore or Gallup? And that's a good question because we've been talking about Gallup for the last 2 weeks as well as one to stash away. Let me pull him up. I've got him. We're going to get onto the Cowboys chat. But we'll pull him up anyway.
The word is Dak is back, isn't it?
Dak is back, yeah. Dak is back.
So that's got to, you don't want Cooper Rush thrown to your receivers, do you?
Yeah. For me, Gallup's one that I'd like. We've all been saying is get him, sort of stash him, and then keep holding back a bit.
Yeah,
I think it's still too early to. Personally, I think it's still too early to sort of take a chance on him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas you see there, he's started to increase there. He's got 76% of the snaps. Whereas Rondale started a big. He's already a couple of weeks ahead of Gallup, I think. It's just how D-Hop and being back affects him, but it could be positive for him because he's back in the slot. He's getting less attention.
Yeah, like I say, they're a bit all over the place, Cardinals generally. But if their offensive weapons tonight are going to be Zach Ertz, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, and then something of Robbie Anderson running down the field stretch. That's four targets. Are going to be hard to cover them all, and I think we think Moore might get an easy matchup and he'll get some action. So yeah. Yeah,
personally, I'd go Rondale Moore.
Absolutely agree.
Zach Ertz has been a stalwart of a tight end really the last since the start of the season, just steady away.
He's got his critics because he's not a Kittle or a Kelsey where he'll power through tackles and get those yards after the catch. He's a find some space, catch it and go down and move the chains, but he is getting a lot of action, isn't he? Is he getting 10 targets a game? He's scoring well. He's not an elite tight end, but again, the tight end, we've said that the points are coming down this season. Tight ends, I think, are not scoring particularly well. So for me, he's a consistent tight end for that middle of the
pack. Yeah, he's just consistent, isn't he? It's just when you can get a tight end that you don't have to worry about, it's fantastic because you can get tight ends who are just whereas he's just been steady, you're getting double figures every week from a tight end. You're laughing, aren't you?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what round he went in, but I can't imagine it being too early. So,
yeah, I think I don't know if his stats can show now. He's had back-to-back 10-target weeks. So again, what you can't ask for too much more action from a tight end. That a lot of them are touchdown dependent. He is getting the volume.
Yeah. Connor's a game time decision.
Yeah, so I think even Benjamin he had a knock last week and he was questionable. I don't think he's had a full practice this week. I mean, the backfield running game is pretty much Kyler scrambling, isn't it? He's good on the scramble, but the two running backs or the running back game in general, they're either injured or bad, and probably both this week. So, I mean, I've got Benjamin in a couple of leagues because I thought he might have been a good pickup. Connor out for a while. But it's not proven that way. He's a tough one to start, probably. I think when they're both fit, it was a bit of a 70-30 split in the touches. So again, neither of them are real that workhorse back that people always want. So
for me, if I had either of these, Connor or Benjamin, especially if you're in the UK, with it being a Thursday night, I'd be shitting myself playing either of them because it's guaranteed that you wake up in the morning, get your Game in 40 or whatever on Game Pass or YouTube highlights or whatever, and you're looking for them and they're not there.
drink the blue Gatorade, you're thinking, oh man.
You end up with a goose egg or whatever.
I do think Benjamin will probably outscore Connor, and I think they might go a little bit easier on Connor, given he has had a bit of an injury history, and I think his injury was a bit more serious than what Benjamin was. But I think ultimately it's going to be Kyler scrambling and chucking it rather than the run game. They don't lean too heavy on the run game generally, do they? So
yeah.
Again, what options have you got at running back? If you haven't got a lot and he's your running back 2 or 3, you probably chance it with him, but it is a chance.
Yeah. In terms of the Saints, the Saints are a funny one as well for me. I mean, Landry's out, Thomas is out. You've got Callaway, which
I was going to say, when I did a little bit of prep on this game because it was a Thursday night game when he asked us to come on, and I thought, look, who did the Saints throw last week? Because obviously Olave missed with a concussion, and Thomas said his injury problem. So who did they have last week? And they threw to 9 different people last week. And if you can name any of them, then you're doing better than me, because some of them are they sound like the crowd. I was going to ask you how many can you name of the receivers from last week who got any action for the Saints.
Because I get these tabs up before they go live or record, and I got Landry and Thomas because I knew they were injured, and then I could think of Callaway, and I could think of this Traquan.
Traquan. Yeah, so I think again Traquan and Callaway were players last season who people going, oh, they're going to be the wide receiver 1 in the Saints. No Thomas, get them, and they absolutely flopped in there. They just weren't good enough again against good corners, etc. But then I think you've got people called Keith Kirkwood and Kevin White.
No, do they even have pictures on here? Kirkwood. Keith Kirkwood. It doesn't sound like a wide receiver name.
Well, I think he works in Home Depot on a
like a Keith even, does he?
I think he's a flight attendant in Home Depot now on a Monday, but apparently he just got a game for the Saints on a Sunday because he must have been in there.
That wasn't what I'd pictured in my head as a Keith Kirkwood.
There was one guy though when I was watching the game who I didn't know much about, but he scored the touchdown and he looked superb. Rasheed Shaheed.
I had heard of him before, actually.
Did you mention him on a previous pod? So
yeah, we did.
I know what his background is. Statman Bland will fill us in next week. But he took a touch in the backfield and he went 44 yards for a touchdown, and he was absolutely rapid.
Yeah, he hasn't even got a picture look.
Ducked a couple of tackles, and ran a 44-yarder in. Just that one flash, I'd imagine he will get some game time. If you're in a real deep league with big benches, he could be one to pick up and stash. Because that one, that's his first touch in the NFL, I think. And he scores on first touch, it says in the comment.
One and only touch.
Superb. So he's not going to be a volume guy, but he's in a dynasty.
Oh no,
league.
he's had a punt return
in a dynasty league, deep bench. If you can stash him, why not?
Yeah. Just to touch on Olave, I think he's past concussion protocol.
Yeah, he's clear for tonight. So, and I think Thomas is meant to be playing as well. Again, you don't quite know what you're going to get with him at the moment, but.
Michael Thomas has been rolled out.
It was early in the week, possibly they were hoping for him to be back. So he's out.
He's been rolled out, yeah.
So a big dose of Olave tonight, then I would think. If you've got him, you're going to probably start him.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I say, he's the main man. And he's performed well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think you've got Olave, he's starting Olave every week, I think.
Yeah.
If he's playing. Yeah. Right, so who's going to be next? I'll tell you what I want to talk about next. It's the. Hang on, just let me trick my screens about.
Yeah, fiddle your buttons, Anth.
Yeah.
Any more questions in the chat? Keep them coming in.
Yeah. Start to load up. Right. So like I said before, when I do the pods or live stream, whatever, I get look at the tabs and look through the games and stuff. And I came across this game, so the Ravens versus the Browns, and fucking hell, it's an absolute minefield. I mean, it seems like all the Ravens' offense is questionable. It's like Andrews questionable, Lamar questionable, Dobbins questionable, Bateman questionable.
I mean, I think some questionables are more serious than others. I think sometimes people have a knock after a tough game.
Even Duvernay was sidelined yesterday.
But again, you had the main man on, didn't you? Start with Mark Andrews. He is the offense, isn't he? He's just an absolute machine. He just gets all of the targets. Lamar looks for him first read all the time. He did drop an absolute dolly. Did you watch it at the weekend?
Yeah, I did, mate. Well, yeah.
Pinged off his chest. Got him in my... Such a good throw. It was right into into the number on his chest, and he didn't catch it.
Yeah, it's unlike him
later on, and his volume is ridiculous, isn't it, for a tight end? He's just a wide receiver 1 point out the tight end position. And I think I seen a stat that said he hasn't been asked to block a single play this year. They don't even look to him to block. So
yeah, that's one of so in terms of tight ends, that's one of like Blandy's sort of lookout is like how many times they run a route on the drop backs. Because obviously, like, if you get a Kittle who's going to be blocking all the time, it obviously eats into your fantasy points. So,
Kelsey's never asked to do any blocking. He's just a receiver playing out the tight end, and he's a big body and he finds them spaces. So, I think Andrews, he is the new, what Kelsey's done for fantasy perspective the last couple of years, just been an absolute monster, guaranteed points. I think Andrews is the new one.
The thing about what I read into it, Andrews' injury wasn't that serious, but he was out yesterday, and obviously it's probably still a bit too early to see if he's gone out practice today. I'm hoping so because I've got him in my redraft. So
I'd imagine he'll play. He is the offense, like you said, isn't he? But they're a bit of a strange team on that offensive weapons. Lamar's a top player, but we've seen his points per game have been all over the place. If you just scroll through there. Week 1, 21, 2 bumper weeks at 40 points, and then he's gone back to sort of that teens where you can get people off the waiver wire for them sort of points, the likes of Trevor Lawrence and stuff.
Tannehill and stuff like that,
they'll get you them points, but he's got a huge ceiling, but he's just been a bit inconsistent. But even the Ravens themselves have been a bit, they're 3-3, but I think they're better than that, aren't they? They lost to the Dolphins in that shootout game, when they were miles ahead and either eased off or just got sort of sucker punched. They lost to the Bills in a quite close game, which can happen. The Bills are very good. And they lost to the Giants, which again, I think last 2 or 3 plays, they did nothing, fumble, turnover, they just didn't seem to close the game out. So they're a 3-3 team. We're probably better than that, but then don't have a lot of fantasy relevant players because you're going to be taking punts on some of these players, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just other than Lamar and Andrews, it just seems to be a minefield, especially for the wide receivers. I think that's one of the reasons Hollywood actually wanted to leave. He was just it's just too inconsistent if they're going to get targeted, isn't it? It can't be great for a wide receiver's career, can it?
I think it's the scheme. Is that's how the Ravens want to play. They want to run the ball and they want to throw to Andrews and maybe one other receiver, but have some other receivers as decoys and maybe some of the top receivers aren't prepared to buy into that scheme. So there is talk that they can't attract good receivers. Certainly don't look for them in the free agency or whatever else. But But the backfield, Kenyon Drake was the man last week, wasn't he?
He was,
He got a huge amount of fantasy points, but not very many touches.
There he is. So what's the latest on, obviously it's between Dobbins and Drake. I think Dobbins went off, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he said there's some swelling on the knee, and somebody's coming back from an ACL injury. That's you're not gonna risk that. If he is the star back, they think he could be. He's coming off, and the shot Drake on, and like I say, not very many touches, but huge amounts of yards and a couple of touchdowns. So great for a fantasy perspective. Nobody had him this week. People will have picked him up on a waiver, and you don't know what he's going to get. I think that they'll probably give Dobbins a bit of time to get his knee better.
Yeah,
use Drake for a little bit, but I think I did hear that they've activated, or they're going to activate Gus Edwards off the pup. So again, I think he's a sneaky little pickup, the Gus bus.
Yeah,
because he knows the scheme. He's a good downhill runner. He's powerful. I think in previous years when he has come in, he's done well. So Drake's not the powerhouse back. He's more of a catching back and in space back. If Dobbins doesn't get fit, he could be someone who comes in the second half of the season. I'm a little
bit gutted that you've brought Gus Edwards up because he's on my list in the league that we're in together.
What? You're telling me you're running a podcast, but you're keeping your trade secrets to yourself? You dirty girl.
He was on my waiver watch list, Gus Edwards. I nearly put a waiver in for him on on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, wherever it was. I think he's gonna. I like Gus. He just seems to be like one of them. I mean, he can pull his.
Well, he was injured all last year, wasn't he? You'll have to go back another season, I think. Yeah.
He gets the odd week where he scores well, and with him being just so battered in the backfield, if he gets a good run, he might do all right.
I think he's had spells in his career where, like I say, injuries in front of him, and he's come in and done well. So this feels like this could be a scenario that plays out in the second half of 2022, doesn't it? That Drake is your pass catching back. Dobbins doesn't get himself fit, and the lean on Edwards. But he's not a I've got to break the bank for him and I want him to be what he's a backup. But
it might be one of them backfields that you just want to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jackson's he's a running threat, isn't he?
Yeah.
And what about the Browns? What do you? I mean, I'm not a Browns particular fan. Again, they're a team who want to run the ball, aren't they? They're a heavy run team, but they've got a good backfield of backs. I mean, Chubb, Blandy always says the best pure rushing back. He gets huge fantasy points when he gets going. 100, like he's a Henry type, 100+ yards, just absolute pounds away. You can mix in Kareem Hunt, who's also very good, and even was it Dennis Johnson came in when they were both injured a year or two, and he looked like I think he got a one game where he had a 100-yard game. So
yeah, but the thing is about the thing is like last week the Chubb and Hunt were both not shit. Just
but they got
they just seem to pass it more, didn't they, last week? And
they were getting back like the Patriots, weren't they? So when you get 2 scores down and you're a run-heavy team, it's quite difficult to get going, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you look at the receivers they've got, and I mean, I do like Amari Cooper. I think he was a bit undervalued at draft because I think compared to his skill set, he was very good at Dallas. He's got a lovely touchdown this week, didn't he? If you saw that one into the end of the corner of the end zone, gets his toes in. I think he's a good player, but the second and third choices are poor for me. Right, Peoples-Jones don't really want anything to do with him.
No. Especially with the quarterback, do you know what I mean? Cooper was when Cooper was with Dak, he was freaking fantastic. When Dak was fit,
they paid a lot of money to get him as well, didn't they? There was at the time they got him, he was short at receiver. They had to pay a lot of money to get him, but he gave him what paid for. He gets himself open. Down the sideline, great high catch. He's a top player for me. I know people think he's getting a bit older, 28. He's still got a season or two in him, surely.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Browns, all their eggs in the Deshaun Watson basket, aren't they? So they're keeping things ticking over. Brissett's doing all right. He's doing okay, but they're leaning on the run. But, let's see what happens to the team as a whole once they get Deshaun Watson back. And maybe, it's probably going to be not this season, but next season, see what the draft at receiver.
Yeah, and the only other one in terms of fantasy relevance is the Njoku, who obviously picked out here.
Yeah, I know. He was one of your...
Again, a tight end, he's going to have the odd good week when he hits 20+, but it's a steady 9, 10. It's like...
He was one of the guys that you were following early, wasn't it? And Blandy was sort of saying he's had a couple of bad weeks to start, then he had his bumper week, and he's been better since. Again, when you watch him, he looks like a big physical tight end you want to throw the ball to, but it depends what the coordinates want to do, doesn't it?
Yeah. So next game, Highland Street. See our ugly mugs. Give me 2 seconds. Now, Blandy's been calling these the worst team in football.
He calls about 5 teams that though, doesn't he?
Yeah. So it's the Titans v the Colts.
The Colts.
Or the Colts versus the Titans. I think it's at the
Colts at Titans, isn't it? Yeah,
it's at Titans.
Again, these are some of the games we're covering today. There's a lot of sort of minefields. Apart from your stud receiving, your stud backs, the rest of them are really tricky to work out.
Yeah, so Titans are 2.5 point favourites.
Yeah, I do like the Titans, and from a betting perspective, I do like the Titans in this game at home. I think Vrabel, the coach, is very good, and I think he's got a superb record coming up a bye week. So they've had the bye week. They'll be primed for this game. It's a divisional game, so it's super important. You expect it to probably be tight. They'll be having the big dose of Derrick Henry, which they normally do, but they might have a few other plays and plans for this game that not just hammer Henry. And I think the -2.5 on the Titans is probably a good bet.
Yeah. Well, I've been looking through this game. It seems like it's quite hard to get in terms of fantasy relevance plays for the Titans. I don't know if it's because my knowledge is shit.
I think there's just teams, Anth, that you just don't want anything to do with. Because if you start trying to chase, is Robert Woods going to play? How much targets get? Or Westbrook Akini or something like that. You're just going to get burnt. So there's just better options on better teams. I think that's the way to play it with this Titans and.
Yeah, for me, obviously you've got Derrick Henry. You're playing Derrick Henry, but in terms of anyone else that you might have on your bench, and you're like thinking, "Oh, should I play him? Shouldn't I play him?" It's only kind of like Robert Woods is like, do I play him? Do I shot him in? Or it's a bit. I mean,
what's his points being like? So 7.9.
Pretty mediocre. It's not like
There's not. You're looking for players who've got a bit of a high ceiling and a high floor. And he's got a low floor and a low ceiling, so he's not one I'm looking at. I know Blandy and yourselves were looking at Burks, the guy that drafted to probably replace AJ Brown, who's gone on IR. I think he was getting a bit of action. He was sort of starting to trend up a little bit. He's probably one on it just to keep, if you can afford to stash him on your bench, see what he comes back and does. And his probably his fantasy numbers points wise aren't great, but I think the routes run and all the snaps he was getting was trending upwards, and just the way he looked on the field, like he could be that wide receiver one, the one to replace AJ Brown. But you're not going to get that anytime soon with him.
No, it's like if you're in a dynasty league, it's kind of like pick him up, see what he's like in a year's time, maybe. Even when so over the years I've often used Tannehill, especially for if my quarterback gets injured or it's my quarterback's bye week or whatever, because he can run as well and he does sometimes get touchdowns. But he's had a couple of decent weeks, but his last 2 weeks have been pretty mediocre as well, and it's like.
Yeah, I think you're picking Tannehill if you've either got an injured quarterback or you're on bye week and you need someone to plug in to get that 15 points. Hope he gets 20. Yeah, so he does like a little sneak, doesn't he? And fake the handoff and rush in in the red zone. But yeah, you're not going to get a huge amount out of him.
No,
but he's a very capable sort of drop-in reserve player.
Yeah, so I think long story short is you play Derrick Henry and that's it for the Titans.
Yeah.
Colt is a bit more of
Colt's a bit banged up, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're the worst team. Just to go back to whether they're a good team or a bad team, I'm not sure they're the worst team in football. They look like they've got a talented roster, but they look like they've gone down the route of getting Matt Ryan for a bit of experienced quarterback, and he doesn't look like he's up to the job at the moment. It looks like maybe age has caught up with him. The run game's not going anywhere at the moment. Taylor was the best running back last season. He's just not really got. I know he was injured last week, but even then, he's not really got going. Whether they can't get the lanes for him or whether people are stacking the box, I'm not exactly sure what it is. He's a questionable for this week, which is the worst thing as a fantasy manager, isn't it? That questionable tag, especially off an injury when he didn't play last week. Even if he plays, are they going to use him fully? I think the backup running backs who they used. So who did they use last week? Jackson had a good week, but he might have got injured. Naeem Hines is always one who can be a bit of a late pick of running back to slot in. He's got injury doubts.
I've just got another question from Bradley Baz about Eno Benjamin. So Bradley, we discussed Eno Benjamin when we were on the Saints and Cards. It looks like Connor's a game time decision. So
yeah, we were saying if you're
I'm not sure where you are, Bradley. You might be in the US or the UK. I'm not sure, but in terms of us in the UK, you kind of taking a risk that Connor might be in or out. Which obviously, if Connor's in, then it's going to eat into Eno a bit. If he's out though, Eno is going to be the only one.
But we still said that's not a great. It's not an amazing player. I think if you know that if you can afford to wait to find out the injury report game time, and Connor's not going to play, I think Eno is a player. I don't think he plays Connor, and I think but it's a risk if you can't wait.
All right, so Bradley's saying he's in the US, but he's assuming Connor doesn't play. Well, if Connor doesn't play, then
stick him in. Obviously, always depends on what other options you've got. But
it sounds like you're struggling in that position anyway. So, if you're trying to think, well, who should I play, Connor or Eno? We said earlier on that you'd probably go Eno because Connor's coming back, and Eno's probably going to get more of the snaps just from the kind of ease Connor in. So I personally play Eno.
Yeah, agreed. And like I say, and Bradley can wait till the game time. And if they line Connor up as the first choice, then you don't play him. You look at other options.
Yeah. Just keep all your fingers and toes crossed that that Connor doesn't play, and then you can have Eno in there.
Maybe Anthony, you're going to tell us. Go back to the Colts. You're going to tell us which running back to pick this week, then, are you?
In terms of the Colts.
Yeah. So if he can't play, Benjamin, and he's got some Colts options, who are you expecting to lead that back?
I'm not sure if he's got any Colts options. I hope we answered your question, Brad. 2 seconds. Let me. Let's get rid of these screens. I've got about 1,000 screens open. So obviously the Colts. We've got Jonathan Taylor. I think he was limited in practice yesterday, so it's possibly he's going to be coming back this week.
Yeah, it's just the usage. Are they going to want to absolutely, give him 25 to 30 touches, 25 touches, or are they going to just ease him?
Yeah.
It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing for a fantasy manager, that questionable.
Yeah, it's a questionable thing, and then it gives you the. So I've got Hines in one of my redraft leagues, and Hines is like, I think he's a decent player, isn't he? Yeah. It's one of them. Hines is one of them players where sometimes he can go off and he can get you 20 odd points. But obviously, he got concussion, and was out last game. So it's kind of like when you've got like two questionable in Hines and Taylor, it's kind of like, oh, you bloody. Do I play Hines or not? So personally, I'm not going to play Hines this week. I'm just going to sit him.
But
it just seems a bit of a minefield. The running backs.
Hines, you want to get him in when you know that he's going to get a higher percentage of the share because the other guy's rigid. So you've got to listen to nearer the game time to say Taylor's out and Hines is the best fit, the most fit back. That's when you're playing.
Bradley, we'll just cover this. We'll cover this Colts game, and then we'll get on to the Cowboys after this one.
But we touched on Matt Ryan a little bit. He's not a trustworthy player, is he, Matt Ryan?
No, but the thing is about Matt Ryan. So I've picked Matt Ryan up this week in waivers.
I've seen you. You spent a bit your fab on that, didn't you?
Yeah, mainly because I picked Pierce up. So we've been banging on about Pierce for the last few weeks to pick him up and stash him. And obviously he's a rookie, but he seems to be a really good player. So Brad, if Alec Pierce is available in your league or one of your leagues, he's only 65% rostered. He's certainly worth looking at.
Is that his fantasy points 12, 16, 13? So he's had three decent weeks for a low value.
He's like a part-time player, which he's obviously getting more and more targets as he's getting more and more reps. So he had a touchdown last week, and it was the game-winning touchdown. His score wouldn't have been that good if he didn't get the touchdown. Don't get me wrong. But I've got a lot of buys this week, so I'm
thinking about chucking him in,
which includes Josh Allen. So I'm playing. I've gone with the stack, so I've gone Matt Ryan stack with Pierce, and I'm just hoping he gets one of them. Yeah, long shots again.
They're not blessed at wide receiver, are they, the Colts? I think Pittman's the wide receiver one. The rest of them, they're Paris Campbell. I don't think's pulled up any trees. Pierce seems to be coming in here. They're not stacked at wide receiver. I think Pittman's an interesting one as well, isn't he? He was. I got him last year late because I liked him and I had a couple of good players that I've seen of him, and he had a good year. And
Evening, Leon. How you doing, mate?
T.Y. Hilton retired, and he stepped at that number one role. He's a big guy, and he's getting. I think if you look at his numbers, he's getting the share, but he's just not really getting. He's not getting the yards.
I think Pittman's. If you drafted Pittman, he's starting him.
Oh yes, you have to. Yeah.
I mean, last year he was a bit of a up and down, but he was kind of like above average sort of like wide receiver. I think he's just struggled this year with Matt Ryan, personally.
That's it. Yeah, he's not had any big plays. I think he's on the bottom of the list of the sort of the elite guys of those explosive players where you catch it and then you burn 40 yards. You struggle for people to come up. He's just not getting them. Whether he's not getting the right targets in the right areas or whether he's getting struck down, I don't know. But he's not getting the big plays, but he's getting good volume. So you're still probably happy enough with him. You just think there's a bit more to come.
Yeah. I don't know what happened with Ryan last week. It just seemed to click. Like you said, 389 yards last week, Ryan. I think it took everyone by surprise,
Yeah, he was like that, though, towards the end of his career at the Falcons, wasn't he? He was just slinging it all over, and he had some good receivers, and he was just a bit of a gunslinger. So you thought, well, if you go to the Colts and they've got the likes of Pittman and people, then he could do that, but he hasn't been able, whether it's the chemistry or whatever else, don't know. But again, I think he's not. I wouldn't be looking for Matt Ryan. I know you've picked him up, but he's not on my.
No. It's kind of just like it's kind of just think. I think that I need something big happen to win my matchup this week.
You having a punt? It's got a chance.
Yeah. I just need that stack. I just need Matt Ryan and Pierce stack to hit off this weekend to win. I think. Whether it's just like a one big lump downfield and Pierce gets on the end of it again. I guess that's what I'm hoping for. Will it happen? Probably not. So Cowboys, Bradley, we're getting the Cowboys now.
Yeah, we said at the start, Dak is back. But is he properly back? What do you think of his injury? Where do you stand on that then?
I don't know. Dak does my head in. I've got Dak in me couple of my dynasty leagues, and
it was the injury wasn't it again week one, and he was under pressure. Did he whack his thumb off his helmet and break his thumb or dislocate his thumb or jar his thumb? On his throwing hand as well, I think. So it's have they rushed him back? Is he fit? It's difficult to know with any confidence before you start seeing him.
I mean, the Cowboys are big favourites, aren't they?
They are, but again, the Lions are another funny team, aren't they? Everyone who's watched Hard Knocks is rooting for the Lions, but they were great at the start of the season. First 4 weeks, they were the highest score offense. Yeah,
looking at maybe the Cowboys are heavy favourites because of the injury list here. I'm not 100%.
What for the Lions? I mean,
yeah,
I think
possibly.
It's a general known fact that the Cowboys are always heavily backed across the America's team, and they're always a bit more fancy than actually better than what the bookies have them. So, I think 7's a big number to be given up against the Lions. Like I say, who were flying weeks 1 to 4, high score offense. We've got everyone behind them because of Hard Knocks, and then they come up against the Pats on week 5 and put a 0, and then they've had the bye week. So again, some teams are good off the bye week because they're more prep time. But were they prepping for Cooper Rush? Were they prepping for Dak? I don't know. I think it's a tough one to call. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to beat them by more than 7, which is the handicap.
Yeah. Bradley, but if you've got, let me read Bradley's comment here. What do you think of starting Dak? If you've got Dak, he's starting Dak every week. Really.
I think he's saying Dak or Ryan. If it comes out Dak or Ryan, I'd probably take the punt on Dak.
Yeah, I'd play it. I've got Matt Ryan in one of my leagues. I'd always play Dak over Matt Ryan. Yeah,
and I think again he will just him physically being back will lift the team because he's the leader, he's the quarterback. Cooper Rush had that ridiculous sort of run of games where he never lost, but he's not very good. They were well beat by the Eagles last week, and they were beat by the Eagles not because they were a bad team. The defense actually played well for the Cowboys. They were beat because the offense got nothing going. And some of the games he's won, they've just sort of ground out or won. So I think Dak being back will lift everybody. Yeah. It's going to be better for your receivers. Your CeeDee Lambs, your Gallups, you want the ball thrown to him by Dak rather than Rush. It's just that niggling concern about how fit is he. If he's not quite there and it's his thumb, it's his throwing hand, are they going to hand the ball off a lot? Because I think the Lions' defense is absolutely tripe. I think.
And don't forget, Dak can run as well, can't he?
He can move a bit, yeah.
So he's going to get you them rushing yards as well. If he's not going to be thrown all the time, he's going to get you on the ground. But I can't see him taking a risk if he's not perfect at it. Because
they're a funny team, aren't the Cowboys? Because they've got a manager, but Jerry Jones calls the shots, doesn't he? The owner. So he was saying as soon as Dak went down, he'll be back sooner than you think. So I think he'll be putting pressure on him to get him on the field.
Yeah, but if you're 4-2 against the 2-4 Lions at home, you're probably thinking, well, if we need to keep him out, we'll just keep him out. I think. I wouldn't be worried about him.
I agree with you, but you don't own an NFL franchise, and so this Jerry Jones likes to do what he likes to play to his own tune, doesn't he? So I'm sure he's going to be saying Dak is back, Cowboys are going for the Super Bowl, and they'll roll him out, which makes me think they'll probably get him on the field, but then they'll give a heavy dose of Zeke and Pollard, and not make him throw too many times. Test that thumb out, so a bit of an ease in game. If they can control the clock a bit with the run game, it can slow down the Lions, who can be, a bit of a shootout type team. I think that's going to be their game plan.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking back to one of Bradley's comments earlier on, and he was asking about should he play Gallup, and there's a quandary that if you've got Dak and Gallup in the same team, Gallup's been a bit hit and missy in the last few weeks, but maybe because he has a good relationship with Dak, certainly from last year. So if you've got them both in the same team, you could stack them this week, and it might be a make or break. It just depends on how much you're willing to gamble, really.
It depends if you want to roll the dice. Depends what options you've got. Personally,
obviously, if you've got Dak and you've got Gallup, and
I was a Gallup owner. I had some other reasonable options, and I think there are options at receiver more than quarterback. I'd be saying I want to bench Gallup and I want to see him, get the target for the snap share. But if I had Dak, I'd play him because I think he's an elite quarterback. So whilst the stack's always tempting, I think I'd be saying play Dak and bench Gallup.
Yeah, play it safe. What's that, Hammer? Rumours CMC will be traded by Sunday, boys. Is any favourite yet, Hammers? I've seen 49ers are up there as well, aren't they? 49ers, Bills.
He would go great in the 49ers, wouldn't he?
Yeah. That's what they're missing. They're missing a running back, aren't they? A proper running back. I mean, we had the 49ers as on the short list to discuss because we can't discuss all the games because we'll be here all night. And when I was looking through the 49ers team, you just think, fucking hell. I mean, obviously you've got Mitchell out injured, but you just think if they had a proper running back. But what happens if you just Rams?
Yeah, I was going to say Rams are the team that also, Blandy was also tipping Rams up to get in for, they're going to cut Cam Akers out.
Can they afford him?
Well, they're just fudging some numbers, don't they? Just change numbers around. You have a few decimal points, you're in.
Fucking hell. Steve Wake must have done the accountants there, the accounts at the Rams, does he?
Okay. So, I think, they always make, what are you going to have to give up for him? It didn't sound like it was too much. I think what they're asking, they started off by saying we want multiple first rounders. I think that realistically, you might give up a first rounder and some later picks. I mean, who are you going to pick up in the first round to be as good as CMC?
I was reading that. So basically the Panthers have obviously got so next year in the draft, there's quite a few elite level quarterbacks that are quite highly thought of, and the Panthers have got their eyes on one of them quarterbacks. I think, basically, so the deal has to make it worthwhile that they can sneak up there to get one of them QBs. I think.
I mean, if we're saying the culture of the conversation for worst team in football, Panthers have got to be up there. I mean, they've beat some. How did they beat the season? But they're a bad team. The Panthers, whenever I see them,
The Panthers have got that. I think that the Panthers are happy with the defense they've got.
They've got some options on defense, but they've got nothing on. Obviously, they've sacked the coach. They're in a bit disarray there. They haven't found the quarterback yet, so looking in the draft for it. So maybe the teams who want to rebuild often think, if I can get rid of a star player that I'm going to have to pay a lot of money for, and get some picks, get lots of picks, multiple picks for them, I can rebuild by doing that. Whoever gets CMC, if he goes to a good team, it's going to really lift them, isn't it?
Yeah.
But even from a fantasy perspective, there he's not had his mega weeks, but he's got some.
Broncos as well, Baz, the worst team.
Yeah, I've seen that comment. I switched the chat off for a little bit there.
I thought he meant McCaffrey was going to Broncos, but no, it was Broncos.
The Broncos they're in a bit of a mess at the moment, aren't they? The coaching is pretty poor. But they've been in they've lost some games, but they've been in every game.
Don't bite, because we'll get onto the Broncos after this game. So
right, okay.
Don't let him have his moment. But
I'll put the bone down, and I'll grind my teeth for a little bit.
Yeah, in terms of this game, obviously CD Lamb you're playing, Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott you're going to be playing. Play Dak. Like you say, Barry, maybe sit Gallup and see how he gets on with Dak being back. See how he gets on.
Who have we got? Who are we liking on the Lions? Obviously, Swift. There was sort of
Swifty's on about coming back. I think Swift's back.
He had a niggle injury, didn't week 4, and they want to give him time. So you would think he's going to be back. I don't know what to say about his practice regime, but you'd think he's going to be back, and he looked pretty good in those first couple of weeks. Hawkinson's been again a favourite target, but I think he had a monster week when they had no one else to throw to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the rest of the wide receiver. Amon-Ra, again, he looked superb. We've got a bit of a niggling injury. If they're all guns blazing, that's what I'm saying. If the Lions come with all the guys fit, I'm not sure the Cowboys beat them by more than 7.
Yeah. The thing is, in terms of fantasy, you obviously, if Swift's playing, you're playing Swift. If you've got him, Jamal Williams, then he's still going to probably pinch or poach the.
Yeah, but you're not starting him if Swift's the lead back, are you? I wouldn't think. Those 2 big weeks, weeks 3 and 4, was when Swift didn't play.
It depends. I don't know. If I was Jamal Williams or not, I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'd probably like him, but if I had him, I'd probably play him. Depending on who else I got, you know what I mean. I'm just thinking with a lot of bye weeks come up, I wouldn't be too fussed about starting him. I think Swift does all legwork, and then Williams will get the touchdowns while Swift's having a breather.
Yeah.
Hawkinson just seems a bit up and down. I mean, Blandy ran into him when he's got this 39.9 week. He got beat.
Could have up to a nicer guy.
That was insane that week. St. Brown again. I think if you've got St. Brown, you play him.
Yeah. You just the only question mark is on the fitness of all these players, and read the reports. We don't know the fitness. Read the reports. If you can afford to change your team that half an hour before game time, whatever your options are. But if these guys are fit, they're absolutely locked in, aren't they?
What's the over under there? 49-ish. It's going to be a big scoring game, isn't it? I think.
That's like I said. I think the Cowboys will try and make it not a shootout because they don't want Dak slinging it. So they might try and. But whether they're good enough to do that, I don't know. But I think the Lions' defense is dreadful. I think it's last in pretty much most metrics, isn't it? You'd think the Cowboys will have their way with them, and maybe taking time off the clock to stop it being a shootout is how they win the game. So that might have an impact on fantasy, might have an impact on scoring.
Yeah, and then last but not least is the Jets Broncos. If anyone's got any, so we'll cover this game. If anyone's got any questions, let us know, and we'll just bring the players up. Any rumors about OBJ? Have heard Vikings or Chiefs?
I mean, OBJ at the Chiefs would work, you think? I mean, I've not heard any rumours, but I could see them. I can't see them at the Vikings. They're quite stacked, aren't they, receiver?
The Kansas City Chiefs are considered a strong contender for veteran free agent wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., according to league sources.
I think he would. Yeah, he would be a lovely fit.
So have you got the Chiefs? You've got Valdez Scantling, Juju, and McCall Hardman.
Yeah, Sky Moore's not really coming in.
Sky Moore, yeah. So you've got four there.
When I was looking at it, talk about OBJ last year, they were saying obviously we didn't work out the Browns. He had a slow start at other places. It was that he doesn't, when he runs a route, he doesn't always go exactly. He's a bit off the cuff, but Patrick Mahomes, if you're open, he'll find you. So he'd be a great fit at the Chiefs.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think it says in the comments there is like, so time he joins the Chiefs, and the time he gets up to the
I don't think the timeline works, is it?
You're going to be looking at like in December, aren't you, for him to get up and running, and then how much do they use him?
He got injured in the Super Bowl, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that and a knee injury, they can be sort of a 9-month job. I think when he got injured, they were saying he might miss the full season. So you wouldn't think he's got. But again,
in terms of redraft league, you probably not want to take the risk of picking him up. But in a dynasty league, maybe you can pick him up and stash him if you've got a bench spot.
But these Super Bowl challenging teams like the Chiefs, they might think if he's only going to be fit for week 18, but then he's fit for the playoffs, that could be the difference. Not great for fantasy owners, but for the team itself, that might be on their radar. But yeah, fantasy for me, he's hard to pick, isn't he? Unless you've got a really deep bench.
Hold on.
Jets Broncos.
Yeah, Jets Broncos, one close to your heart. Give me 2 seconds. There we go.
I think what's the handicap? Is it one between 1 and 2? So
Broncos are favourites.
They're at home, Mile High is difficult for the teams to come.
Is that because of the fitness? Is it
the altitude? Yeah, they reckon it makes a bit of a difference. So yeah, the Jets are going quite well, aren't they? They've just got to Green Bay and won.
Yeah, 4-2,
and won quite convincingly. They didn't just. They were up all the way, weren't they? Would have won by, what was the score? By 10 points or something? 27-10, quite win.
Yeah, 27-10, yeah. The thing is with the Jets, when they had the draft, everyone was saying how good the draft was for the Jets.
Won the draft.
And it turns out it was.
Yeah, there was a program on Sky Sports, wasn't it? That one drive that followed the Jets, and it was quite good analysis in the backroom staff. They've obviously got a good GM in now, and they had the draft board loaded up, and they got what they thought was the number one pick in several positions: receiver, corner, running back. So they feel they had a lot of picks. Don't get me wrong. They traded stuff away to get these picks, but they've set themselves up nicely. And yeah, Breece Hall had a belting game, didn't he? Against
Breece Hall is one of these players now. If you're in a casual league and no one's cottoned on, I think everyone will have. But there might be some leagues out there where he's sat on a bench somewhere or whatever else. Breece Hall's like a must add.
Yeah,
try to get him.
You'd be trying to broker a deal for him. Definitely, you see what you've got. You can give away. You've got to think he's got a bit of value because I think he's a player, isn't he?
Yeah, and then in terms on the switch side of that, Carter. If you've got Carter, you need to get rid ASAP.
Yeah, go back. If you go to Breece Hall, look at those touches. Is that a second column in the colour? Does it go to 18, 17, 18, 20?
Yeah,
your rush attempts there. So he's got 6, 7, 8 to ease himself at the season. 17, 18, 20. He's getting the volume now, and he's looking good with it. He's getting some, pretty much 200-yard games there and back to back. Very good player for me. If you can make a move for him in your league, and you think you've got a few players you can give away for him, go for it.
He's one of them ones where he's just starting him every week.
Absolutely.
And on the switch side, if you've got Carter, get rid.
Yeah.
This this week here where he scored 17 points against Miami. He got just so lucky with them 2 touchdowns. It was unbelievable. That we were saying on the pod that week, that was the week to get rid of him.
Yeah.
When he'd
sell high.
When he'd had them 2 touchdowns, he had that score, get rid then. If you still got him, you might be struggling on. In terms of the wide receiver core for the Jets, it's just it's one of these ones.
They've got a lot of options, haven't they?
Yeah, and
they're a good team.
Even Berrios, right? He just, even though he's not fantasy relevant, he kind of is because he's taken targets from the ones who are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I do quite like Barrios. He doesn't get on the field much, but he's got absolute lightning pace. And he's good on the jet sweep, and he finds some room and he gets them the yards. But I think from the proper wide receivers, it's changed, hasn't it? With Flacco and Wilson, it's flipped round. Like I think Flacco used to love Garrett Wilson, and Zach Wilson seems to love Corey Davis, and then Elijah Moore, who was really good last season at the end, is a little bit of the second fiddle.
Yeah.
But they're all 3 of them in their own right are good players. I mean, I think Corey Davis is the weakest of the 3, but he seems to be Zach Wilson's favourite target. So,
yeah, I was looking at it before the Jets wide receiver, and it's just a head scratcher. I was like thinking, I'm glad I don't have any of them because I'd just be like,
I think I would like.
Saying that, I've probably got worse wide receivers than he's in my team.
So. Sure you have. You've got a bench full of them. Garrett Wilson, for me, I think I like him. Let's say his usage, he had some good weeks early on. It seems to have gone down. However, we just said he was the draft receiver they picked up.
Yeah.
Whatever reason Flacco likes and Wilson doesn't, they'll be running plays for him. I think that will come back around. So maybe he is somebody you can buy on the low. You get him on the cheap for a trade. If he's slipped onto waivers, I think he's somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Right. So let's get on to the Broncos, Barry. Bronco Barry. Let's get on to the Broncos. Right. So let's start with the easy one.
Cortland start.
Yeah. You see, even though last week was or this week, when was it? Monday night, was it?
It was another attritional game, wasn't it? Not particularly exciting. A lot of punting, a lot of Russell Wilson getting sacked or going backwards. But he is the number 1 target. He generally gets a good share. He's good on the scramble play when Wilson is good, also scrambling out, rolling out. Chuck it up somewhere near him. He can go high and get it. He's a player to start every week in your fantasy team. Sutton.
So I think so. When I've been looking at the Broncos over the weeks, it's like Carlton Sutton's starting Carlton Sutton if you got him every week, and then the trouble starts. Then you're thinking, well, Judy, last year you took him early, you'd been playing him every week. This year you just think like, I can't play him every week now.
No, it's been a bit of a make or break year for him. I think he's talented. It's just Wilson's not flying. The team are not flying. Your wide receiver 2 in the team doesn't get a lot of action. He'll make the odd big play here and there. He's not getting the volume that you would want. He's someone you're going to possibly have to pick if you've got people on bye week and you have to get a team out. I wouldn't be. I'd be looking for better options if I could than Judy, just from a fantasy perspective.
I brought Russell Wilson up, but he's not fantasy relevant, especially at the minute. But I thought we'd just touch on him. But mainly because of his Subway videos, I'm absolutely fascinated with him.
I haven't seen them. I know you're posting them.
He's fucking brilliant. He's off his head.
He is a bit of a nutter, isn't he? I mean, you say he's not fantasy relevant. In one of my leagues, I went for him for a punt. I thought he might come.
See you there, Leon. Thanks for watching, Leon.
Top man.
Yeah, so you've got him in one of your leagues, have you?
Yeah, I took him as my. I thought I'm not going to get a premium quarterback. I'm going to go late, and I was between sort of Carr and Wilson, who I'm going to get late on. And I thought, Wilson, he's got good receivers. Those years he got the Seahawks the Super Bowl. he's a good player. He should go well, better than what his ADP was, and he hasn't performed, has he? But he has been held back by some terrible coaching. So, they were struggling to get plays off, and it got to a point where the crowd were chanting 5, 4, 3 on the game clock because they'd gone, back-to-back delay of games. That's not a very good environment. They've got a first-time head coach. He's not pulling any trees up by a long way. It's not helping anybody. But Wilson himself isn't playing particularly well.
Yeah.
But what the coaching staff do seem to like, they've got an absolute abundance of tight ends, and they're all sort of big guys. And Big Greg. Touchdown on his debut. He's one. I would say, take a punt on this guy. I think they drafted him early. He's got a bit of a reputation. The first couple of games, they were rolling out a guy called Andrew Beck. They were giving him, again, no mark, looks similar to him, tight end. They were giving him plays. They've obviously designed plays for tight ends to roll out. I think this guy's going to get some action.
Right.
Again, if you're struggling at tight ends, take a punt on him. If you've got a bench spot you can fill, take a punt on him. I'm not saying go for him because he's going to, change your team.
He's going to be like a Mark Andrews every week or something.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a sleeper.
Yeah. And then the other thing about the Broncos as well, for me, is just like the running back situation is like...
Yeah, I think we said at the top of the show.
With Murray. Let me pull him up.
The story was that they were going to cut Gordon. He had some terrible fumbles. I mean, that first week they got to the goal line twice and fumbled twice. And I think he's fumbled a couple of times since. He was on the verge of the cut. Javonte does his ACL. He's now the number one back. But then they go out and they get Murray. And then last week, that last game, they just decided to stop using Gordon after about a quarter. And Murray and Boone took I think, Murray knew with the team, he'll take over as the lead back.
Right.
Again, what's that worth? He's not going to be a superstar back by a long shot. But if you can get him on the cheap, he could fill in for you. Running back 2, running back 3, a flex spot. He might get a bit of volume. He should get the goal line work because the fumble for fun, and I think he's only ever fumbled about 4 times in 10 years or something. So he's gonna get a touchdown work close in.
What are you saying? A good shout. Hammer's saying good shout. You talking Murray or you talking the tight end, Hammer? I think they're both good shouts.
I'm just talking about my performance in general. I would have thought.
The thing about Latavius Murray is one of them, isn't he? He's just steady away. He's a bit of a tank, isn't he?
Yeah, he's you get some of these backs, don't you? Like the Petersons, the Frank Gores, who just go on and on and on, but they just they know their craft, and they just sort of they don't fumble. They give they'll run the 4 to 5 yards every play if the hole's there.
Or you like Hammer likes your tight end call.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Latavius Murray call, Hammer? Oh. Yeah, you're right there, look. Nathaniel Hackett says he had a great talk with Melvin Gordon and he will start this week versus the Jets.
Yeah, he'll start. He started last week and then he didn't play. So you'll read into that whatever you want to read into it. I'm telling you that I think Murray will end up over the rest of the season being the lead back.
Melvin Gordon will start, then he'll fumble and never be seen again.
I think if he fumbles again, he might be out of the building. So
he's shot.
Never mind on the bench.
I think Murray might be available in our league, Taz picked him up, didn't he? You got him.
Which league? The fantasy?
Oh, you did, didn't you? You bastard.
Yeah, I'm not like you. I keep things to myself and save all the trade secrets. Fantasy front office, run a podcast, don't tell you the best players, but keep themselves to win the league.
Normally, because none of you watch it, right? I get all the tips off Blandy and just fucking...
You're looking for cash players next year, by the
way. So that's all the teams done.
Good stuff.
All the games done. Hammer, do you want us to cover any players before we move on?
I'm not sure we haven't got time to cover all the players. Hammer's either traded or cut or wavered he has about 20 players a week.
So the last segment is Bronco Barry's Banker of the Week.
The BBB.
Triple B. Bring back Boris.
I'm going to say my banker bet.
Elijah Miller. We covered fucking Elijah Miller.
Yeah, he hasn't been listening, has he? He's probably
covered Elijah Miller.
God knows what he's been up to. If you sleep on these drafts, that's why you finish towards the bottom, isn't it? If you don't listen to the podcasts.
Yeah, what did we say about Elijah Miller again? Kind of like a bloody...
He's just a bit part player, isn't he? He's just not... No. He's a good player, but he's just not getting the action. If you can afford to bench him and stash him, and it might come good, but he's not a player at the moment.
It's a bit of a committee of wide receivers, isn't it? It's got too many options, haven't it?
But I think on the betting...
Well, I've got too many options, and I got them quarterbacks, but
Yeah, I think different favourites. So I think on the bet of the week, I was just looking purely on the handicap, and like I said, I like the Titans. So I like the Titans -2.5 at home off a bye week. I think Vrabel's good. If Blandy's right, the Colts are the worst team in football, then that should be a banker. And I would possibly say double it with the Ravens. I think I like the Ravens at home 6.5. I think they're better than their record of 3-3. The Browns got absolutely trounced last week the other week off the Pats. Yeah, I think the double for me is the bet. Titans -2.5, Ravens -6.5.
So Titans, Ravens.
Yeah.
Look at this one. Tell you what, we're not going to cover this game, but in terms of... so I think Blandy and Nick are going to watch this game. Now, if this game was played in London last year, you'd have been thinking, for fuck's sake, shite. But this year, it's heated up now. A right little game, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think they're...
I know the Jags are 2-4, but they just seem... We like the Jags.
They're improving, aren't they? They've been tried for a long time, but they're improving. And the Giants are a strange team because you look at their star players and fantasy football players, and there's none. You've got Saquon, but they know how to win games for whatever reason, and they're hanging games. They seem to come back in games. So the Giants against the Jags, hopefully it'll be a good game. Trevor Lawrence is getting better because he's got better coaching staff around him. They've probably drafted quite well as well.
So to redeem myself, I'll give you one little tip that you might have missed in. So this Bellinger lad, he's starting to see. I'm saying this, but it's what Blandy's told me basically. He's starting to see like elite level sort of like tight end
options.
Yeah. So to be honest, I think Taz had seen it, and Taz has picked him up. If it was a couple of weeks later, or I knew about Andrew's injury, I'd have picked him up this week.
Yeah.
I think Taz has got in there first. But for anyone who's watching like in Dynasty or in their leagues, Bellinger's might be one to keep.
Like I said before, they've not got a lot of options to throw the ball to the Giants. So I think if the tight end looks good and is performing well, he's going to get more and more of a share. I think also for the sort of the players coming to the fore for the Giants is that Wan'Dale Robinson, is it?
Yeah.
They haven't got a lot of depth, and I think he's a good rookie who's got some potential. He's been injured. If he gets back fit, he'll get some action, and we'll see how good he is.
Wan'Dale's another one. Kev Wake's got him. Oh yeah, so Hammer's picked up Bellinger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wan'Dale's another one. Kev Wake's got him in the redraft, and I put a little. I don't think he looks so. I put little feelers out for him, but he hasn't bit. But Wan'Dale's another one that I'd be tempted at as well. Yeah. Do
you know what? There was we know it's on the Cowboys game. Dalton Schultz, we didn't talk about him. I think he's injured, isn't he? If you watched the Cowboys Eagles game last week, there was a standing tight end came in, Ferguson, and I think that the commentator called him Swivel Hips Ferguson because he had a nice little move on him. Tight ends often can, if a good tight end goes down, another one can slot in and they call the same plays because they don't call that many tight end plays. So they can slot in and be, if you're really struggling at tight end and everyone is blocked up or you want someone, the old Swivel Hips Ferguson, he's a real deep dive.
Swivel hips, Jake Ferguson. It sounds like Schultz practiced on Wednesday.
Right.
From this. I don't know why I ended up bringing him up, to be honest.
Oh, he'll be splinters in his ass, Ferguson, then, won't he?
The thing is, he's been out. Will he get the full? I don't know.
He made me chuckle when I heard the commentary anyway.
Let's say swivel lips.
Could name the next horse that anyway, couldn't we? Swivel lips Ferguson.
Yeah. Yes, that's us done. I think.
Excellent.
Unless you got any more?
Nothing to add for me. No, I'll give all the input. I think it was a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for everyone who joined the chat and watched live. Thank you for anyone who's watched the recording. You can still put questions, comments in the chat below. I'll get back to you. Keep an eye out for our shorts. Blandy's still away next week. I don't know if you can do next week, Barry.
Yeah, we'll see if we get someone better, eh? And then if you can't, give me a shout.
No.
I'm joking. No, possibly next week. We'll see how it goes. But everyone subscribe to the channel, don't they, Anth? Because you do a lot of shorts now, don't you?
I do a lot of shorts. Yeah,
individual shorts for just people are commenting about certain players. Follow, subscribe. Your player might come from a little short from Anth, and it might just give you that bit of insight that you need. Yeah.
I mean, if you'd been following, some of these players have already hit off. So the likes of Pierce, the likes of Hunter Henry and stuff like that. If you just keep an eye on some of the shows, get subscribed. Thanks all for watching. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely morning. Have a lovely life.
Enjoy.
Bye.
See you later.